Good morning. Happy New Year's Eve. I figured I'd come here and do a nice stream, last one before 2023, and share a little bit about some insight that I started getting in yesterday. And if you're new here, if you're just tuning in or watching the recording, hi, my name is Stephanie. I'm Divine Cosmic Empress. And I actually wanted to talk about today. The topic is really, it's going to be a nice one. Talking about past lives, talking about death, rebirth, which is funny that it would happen like the last day of the end of the year, right before you go into 2023. And let me know if you've ever watched, or have you seen recently? It's on Netflix right now. It's called Alice in Borderland. And this is actually something that my husband and I had started seeing. Well, he started watching it, and I typically don't really like violent things or anything like that, but eventually caught my eye. So I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And so we finished it yesterday. And as a matter of fact, just to bring it back, I would say, so I actually posted a video recording that I did on my part 2 of my transformational story of the reclamation of a priestess. In it, I share my experience of shamanic journeying, and I actually share with you the 2 of my experiences, my very initial one and what had come up with me for me, and also like general questions like someone might have if like they've never experienced a journey before, if they have any reservations about like experiencing or re-experiencing events in their lives that perhaps you feel that their mind aspect of you doesn't really want to go towards. And also just sharing my experience in terms of how it's helped me in terms of expanding my awareness, my like sensitivity to just the more subtle realms. And as a matter of fact, like, let's begin there. Like when we talk about not wanting to relive or see the hidden things that we've been hiding, usually what happens around that area is because we are afraid in terms of the ego, the part of ourselves that is identifying with this aspect or story or the way of perceiving this certain area of our lives, right? And what happens is that you feel this fear. Because what if I were to face it? What if I were to go there and maybe unearth some sort of stories or experiences that I've forgotten, I've locked away? Or even when it comes to the new year, it's like, all right, in order for me to step into the next fuller version experience or new experience that I want for me, I have to let something go. And what you call that is like the ego death experience. It's like you're so afraid, or that part of you is so afraid to let this identification of whatever story, thought, behavior, or even attachment to people, friends, environment to go. And the reason why this kind of like also was brought up, it was expanded off because of me sharing my story about like just like shamanic journeying and past lives. And in that video, if you go to my YouTube, it's Smiling Guerrero, Divine Cosmic Journey. It's over in my link. I discussed like a little bit about the experience where when shamanic journeying, you're going to, I like to say, like you see your past experiences or what is meant to be brought up for you in that moment to review, like a film, like a movie. It's like a picture book. You see certain instances in your life, and these were moments that are going to answer the question of what you're asking for, whatever it is that you've come in to work on. And for example, and then I discussed like if I had come to somebody and said, oh, why is it that I feel like I don't belong? Or let's say like moments where you feel like you don't belong. And then in the journey, you're going to receive certain moments or instances. It could be in this current lifetime or prior lifetimes before, where what would happen is you'll see the scene, you'll see the pictures of that experience come up for you. And Happy New Year's Eve. And so in those moments that come up for you, they're going to highlight the moments in your life where you kind of formed a story or an attachment that has sort of shaped your reality and now impacting you. And that's why you're here, right? To kind of clear that up, to rewrite it, to clear the energy around it, and I would say raise it so you can integrate it and then move forward. Well, I believe that when we go, whether it's the Akashic readings or like a journey and you're like looking through or experiencing other past, aspects of yourself, these are really just aspects of yourself, depending on how you see things, right? And I'll even link this because I thought it was really like something that just kind of hit and resonated yesterday, just all flooding in messages about like past lives, the whole death and rebirth. And specifically, I was tuning into Matiaa De Stefano. He was on a podcast with somebody, her name is Blue. And he was saying perfect like iteration in terms of like, if we're talking about the 3D reality, which is this, and then we have the fourth and the fifth. And when you get to the fifth, you're at such a high level of vibration. The energy is moving fast. And in that aspect, what happens is that when we're looking back, we are aware of that. We are able to look at the other aspects of our lives or we've experienced. And essentially, what will come up for you will be moments in which these experiences that you've led or you've had, or again, they're all at once because there's no like separation within time. It's just all occurring. That's why you're able to tap in to those moments, or even to tune in to the energy of things around you, right? And sense things, connect with them, get a reading, and communicate with them, right? And what you see is the energy, the frequency that's vibrating at the same vibration where you are in your current circumstance, right? So when it comes out for you, it's because these moments or instances have the similar frequency of what you're needing information for you to bring back and apply into this lifetime. And I thought that was just like, sometimes it's just like good to remember, because even sometimes I get so much in the 3D and I think about, and I forget about the fourth and fifth levels, right? About how stepping back is so important. And when it comes to the new year and stuff, like one topic specifically that's been happening, or that comes up frequently with me and my husband, and I'm just going to take a sip here. Having some ginger tea this morning, is the aspect of when he talks about how, or other people too, where they've told me like there wasn't a part of them that maybe they wanted change from. And what they would do is he figuratively says he killed that version of himself so he can step into this, right? So it's like as if you were to meet the, version of me now, right? Versus had you known the version of me like 10 years ago, right? Within that time frame, you'd be like, these are like two different people, right? Oh, perfect. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back like, let's say 15 years. Yeah, let's say 15 years. Going back 15 to 18 years, you'd be like two different people, two different energy, two different ways that they show up, right? And so whenever he would say it, like he'd kill that aspect of himself, I'd be like, how do you just do that? Flip the switch and go. Well, in it, like when you think about like we all are one, and when you bring your energy vibration to the highest, right? Like you're present, right? You're not identifying with a story. You're able to, it's kind of like going through a layer, right? Or you're shedding a skin, or like a snake, right? Or when a caterpillar like comes out of her cocoon and flies, right? She was going through a rebirthing, a metamorphosis. And in there, these are mini micro deaths experiences. And in life, there are and we call them, there are many instances in our lives are considered micro deaths, or essentially where we always begin somewhere, especially like the tarot, where you're beginning at the Fool card, and then you go all the way around the circle, wheel of life experiences, and you come back to a new layer of like stepping into a new stage of your life. And these are initiations that we could welcome in. And with these layers of initiations, now what occurs is that we are giving ourselves the gift of just allowing ourselves to transform, step into whatever it is we want when we want to. If you choose to, or sometimes you might have like an external event happen in your life that will shift you into experiencing that. And the reason being, like I kind of bring that up, is because you don't have to wait until you die, or you're in the last moments to kind of rethink back, I wish I could have done this. And it's interesting because if you've seen Alice in Borderland, and I'm not going to like spoil anything, but in Alice in Borderland, like they're playing games at the very end. I kind of like thought about it. I was like, oh, they're fighting for their lives in more ways than one. And when they're fighting for their lives, because you have to play a game, and literally the stake is to keep going and live, right? If you give up in the middle of the game, halfway through, right, you end up physically dying, because the end goal is to either you win or the master of the stage ends up winning and you die. And in this whole 2 seasons that they have it up, that's been up there, I was like, oh my god, okay, yeah. So it's like in life, a character ends up saying to one of the main characters, he says that the purpose of the games, like everybody has a different perspective about them. Some people hate them. They're like, why are we here? It's like in the moment of death, when you're facing it, like when you have to risk it all, like you end up get to see who it is that you really are, right? Are you someone who's going to give up? And I actually mentioned this like a couple weeks ago, where I said that it's like in life, you go through a whole journey, you go through a whole experience, you put in all the work, and you're at the very brink of the edge of the cliff, and you can either choose to take another step and go over, and there's a net that's going to catch you and you're going to keep moving forward, right? Or you stop. You don't allow yourself to go to the next step, the next journey, you never know what would have been around the corner if you had not given up, right? Or people who are like, they just have this innate like inner push pull to continue. And you see in this like show especially, which is perfect, because like if we're all here fighting for our lives, fighting to live, like there's this meaning, there's something that's driving it, like, and they kept reiterating this question, like, why am I here? Like, why am I doing this? You know, is this ever going to end? And one of them had guys who had like spoken to the character says, like, I can't tell you, you'll know at the end, but if you don't play, you won't know. You won't find out. If you quit now, like, especially, like, no one's guaranteeing that you're going to get that 100%, you're going to be the winner at the very end, but, like, all the friends that were sacrificed, the people who had died, to give you a chance, because they believe that you were the best fit to continue this, to get people moving forward, you know, trusted you, that would have been kind of, like, in vain, right? And that was, like, really deep, which is funny how I find, like, spirit just kind of, like, connects and mentions things from a different perspective, just utilizing so many, like, beauty and illustrations, especially, like, in film, anime, manga, whatever, right? That's its name. And in life in general. And, like, looking about, like, the whole Alice in Borderland and, like, the death, the rebirth, like, the whole essence of it was, like, you're fighting for your life. And when we're talking about past lives, it's like, and even, like, this morning as I listened to that podcast today, continuing, it's like, okay, you're here to live. And whether you get stuck in a situation or circumstance, or a cycle where you're frustrated and you just keep saying, like, and it feels like a death because it feels painful, whether that's, like, mentally, emotionally, right? It just feels, you know, physically, physiologically, it feels painful to you because I keep going through this cycle and, like, what can I do about it? And, like Matiaa says, honestly, you have to die. And die, going back to micro death, means you have to let go. You have to let go of the thing that's, like, freaking holding you back, killing you, and all these levels, right? And why? Because you're making space for room to grow, to live, to thrive. And micro deaths that had been coming up for me, and again, it's like, oh, it keeps hitting the awareness, right? But every single time at a different level, so that it will, you know, just bring to you what it is that you're needing at this time. And for me specifically, like, micro deaths, and I encourage you to kind of think about micro deaths for yourself, like, what have you recently experienced, or what is it that you need to experience so you can go through your rebirthing? And mine was, like, micro death could be, like, I moved, like, from the place that I had lived in for, like, I grew up most of my years right there. And it wasn't until about, like, 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years, my husband and I moved, we got married, and we moved from that space. And then another micro death was my father passed away. So it's like, the you that you construct, that you build in order to fit in, whether that is the environment or the family, status quo, friendships and social circles, work environments, etc. There's that part of you that you create in those moments to survive. And yet, in order for you to really be who you are, which is in the very present moment, which is always the now moment, he mentions, okay, you have to go through a letting go. And I feel like you'll know when that is, especially because it's like, if it's externally, like, you're feeling now the external pressures, and I'm knowing, right? And it can even be a thought. And he could said it's even as simple as a remembrance of, like, I can change my diet. Like, that in itself is a starvation, or not necessarily starvation, not going that far, but like I'm just, like, omitting something from my life so that I can allow the body, like, now to no longer identify with this particular foods or anything like that anymore. So that, like, without this, who am I? And good morning and Happy New Year's Eve. And when he brought this up in terms of like, what is it that you would let go, or things to just remember that, I'm just like, that's true, you know. Now that I moved away, now that, for example, just painting the picture, my father had passed away, like, who am I without these things, right? And it's like, it's not a thing to be afraid of, because that's like the ego death of like, if I let go of my friend cycle, if I let go of this habit, if I let go of this thing, who am I? It's like, not that you'll physically die, but you get to step into like the new Phoenix version of you, which I thought was very empowering, because it's true. Okay, now this next stage of my life where I am right now in this new work environment in the new city, town that we're in, exactly like, who am I? What do I want to be, right? You're no longer tied and bound by these old things, and especially like when you move away, or you're, you know, growing away from like old friend cycles. Like, sometimes we get stuck in that aspect where we feel sad, right? Like, oh, we're no longer hanging out with them. But it's not that you can't connect with them. It's just the fact that you're growing at a different level. And now the energy no longer really resonates, right? So they won't really know the new version of you, because all they've known is that aspect of yourself from whenever it is that you guys got together, whenever it is that experiences you went through, right? But say you move beyond that, and now it's time for you to express and step into the new fuller version of who you are. And like these things that come up for me, and I was speaking to my mentor about this yesterday, and I was like, it's crazy, because we're talking about business and like how being in this now for a couple of years, I've definitely seen it, how the progression has gone, where from the very beginning, it's like this fear of like, oh, who else do I know that is doing the same thing as me? Not really much. Many people at the time when I first started, would I see who had their own business or were doing things in my field, in the area that I'm in. But the more I invested in terms of my like not level one, but like mastermind or like my mentorship, and over the past couple of years, it gets you into a new sphere of people that you're knowing, connections, networking, and experiences, and things, even more things are opening up for me. And in this most recent year, I've got to, because of the circle I've gotten in with and the people I've been working with, and now like the people that you work with and surround yourself with, that just opens your expansion to more and opportunities and more, right? Where I would meet people who are definitely like more work in terms of like sacred connection to your womb. I've met a priestess who does Vedic astrology. I've gotten to work closer this year with a friend of mine who does Akashic readings, and then learning business from a sacred feminine way rather than a masculine, like push, work perspective, right? And then getting to open my creativity a little bit more than the past recent years. And so all of this just kind of comes back to going, okay, checking in and saying exactly where I am. And this is just an opportunity for anybody to really reflect on it. Exactly where I am. Knowing that I'm no longer in like Virginia, right? I'm no longer, like, what are the things I no longer have that my mind keeps playing on to, and then like identifying with that old aspect of myself, you know, to let that go and then step into where exactly I am now, noticing if these are the things I still want, right? If I am still going to be in it, great. Now, how can I advance and continue to grow, right? and just step into that version of me that I see myself. And so one of the things that I've kind of like been meditating on is like whenever I sit down and think about the thing. And one of the things is I've been learning about like how to show up more authentically, like just myself in terms of how I would articulate things. So this is how I process things in my own mind aspect of my world. And I hold conversations with, right? And that is like, start with the end in mind. If you start with the end in mind, everything that you end up doing, the decisions you make, is it going to get me to that end, right? And if not, then it's a waste of my energy and it's a waste of my time, you know? And it's not going to get me there. It's not integrity, which is my 2023 year word, integrity, which just means that you're being like, you're holding yourself accountable to your own values, your own beliefs, because you hold those true for you. And you don't let anything to steer you away from that. And so for me, you know, integrity, having fun, being a little bit more social, and then showing up again. And like, I'm always constantly going through my own work, right? And that, like, when it comes to circles and stuff, it's like, okay, like realizing, and I share this stuff just because it'll help kind of like get you to think for yourself too in your own life. Especially when we talk about the like self-help and self-work paradigm and realm. Like when I go into the circle, like I have this very moment, I can either choose to be the person that I know I see myself as through the growth in the past 15 years, where I am obviously like a cosmic like person. You'll notice me different eyeliner color, you know, vibrant colors, bright. Or I can be that person I'm stuck in my mind, literally like just like, shut down, quiet, right? And that's the old version of me. That in that moment is a part of me that had formulated, going back to earlier what I was talking about, like shamanic journeying and like lives that you experienced, and formed a story around that moment. You know, that, oh, I am shy, right? Quotations, because I'm not claiming that. Or any other story around that aspect. And I feel that with that and taking a look and reviewing, so we discuss like everything I feel in terms of Alice in Borderland. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. Because it'll throw you for a loop at the very end. And death, rebirth, and past lives. And so just, I hope that the podcast, yes, it's going to be a podcast. It's going to be including this little talk here, plus the YouTube video I have on my first experience of shamanic journeying. And if you have like any questions, or maybe this is your first time hearing about past lives, like from that perspective, like feel free to look at it, listen to it, ask any questions. You can go in and DM me. And then what I'm also going to do, because I thought it was just like a good, like the way he just portrayed it in this podcast with Matiaa De Stefano. I'm going to put it up in my stories today because I thought it was on fire. I was like, yeah, I definitely needed to hear that. Like sometimes it's like when it comes to that question, like how do you just kill off the old version of you just like this? I'm like, how do people just do it? It's like for somebody like myself, like I articulate things just like at a more logical perspective, you know, just bringing it back to the planes of existence, the fifth level. You want to let go of the ego stories, right? And so with that being said, I would say that will be the last live I'll be doing for the end of the year. And I thank you so much for being present with me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. At any point, I do hope that you guys enjoy yourselves tonight, or if you're in the future already, in the new year, Happy New Year. And thank you so much for tuning in with me, being with me here this morning, and be safe. But most importantly, don't forget to have fun and live a little bit, right? All right. Well, I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and tune in to the video that I posted. Sat Nam.